Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show. Real talk, big opinions, and fearless conversations. From the front lines of politics to the latest in pop culture. From breaking sports headlines to the stories that move the world. Nothing's off limits, and nobody's holding back. Arrington Gavin is here to break it down, build it up, and keep it all the way real. So turn it up, lean in, and let's get into it. This is the Arrington Gavin Show.
What's happening, ladies and gents? Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the big stories of the day, whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz. Look, we're diving deep and keeping it real, so please do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and get ready to join the conversation. My friends, on today's conversation, I'm honored to have on Memphis Councilwoman Jerri Green, who is also the Democratic candidate for governor. She is running for governor for the state of Tennessee. That's right, Tennessee, a state that is considered a very red state because it is majority, Republican majority in everything, whether it's on a state as well as on a federal level. And she is, if elected, would make history because, there has never been a woman governor or a woman elected to serve as governor for the state of Tennessee. But she, in addition to that, she also has a challenge because she's running as she is a Democrat, and I know she would probably say, hey, she's proud to be a Democrat, but it's very difficult in the state of Tennessee because the last Democrat that served in in office or served as governor for the state, Phil Bredesen from 2003 through 2011. So last Democrat to serve as governor was in 2011. Now it's been a while since you've seen a Democrat in that role, but hey, you never know. You just never know, especially when it comes to you have individuals that ally themselves with the guy in Washington. I mean, come on. I mean, that's all I can say. They have their work cut out. But no, I'm very honored to have on Councilwoman Green because just following her through her social media, she is a true badass. I will have to say. I mean, she does not play any games. And again, I think it's interesting seeing the jump from local all the way. I'm gonna hear about that later on the show, my friends. But before we move forward, of course, I always have to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune into yet another great episode and to continue to support the Arrington Gavin Show. As you know, we are grassroots and we are continuing to grow each and every day. So I truly thank you for those who are watching us right now on YouTube. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, share with a friend, share with family. I truly appreciate it. We are growing in our subscribers and views each and every day and could not do that without you. We drop new episodes Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, as well as wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's iHeart, Spotify, Apple, wherever, again, you get your podcast, you can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show. In addition to that, you can also watch us check out past episodes of the Arrington Gavin Show on GOATverse TV. That's right, GOATverse TV. Ways you can check out and support GOATverse TV is simply by downloading the app. It's available on the App Store, Google Play Store, Roku, or Amazon Fire TV. In addition to those platforms, you can listen to us not just by way of podcast but in addition to that, I'm getting my words all mixed up here. In addition to that, you can also listen to us on the radio airway. Shout out to our fam out in New Orleans, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about. You can chime into the conversation Monday through Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. 7 p.m. Central Time. Again, that's only on WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about. And then we're going to head over to the Metro Atlanta area to WDJY 99.1 FM Straight Talk. You can chime into the conversation weeknights at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And lastly, the good news, y'all. I'll keep on mentioning it until if you haven't known, the Arrington Gavin Show starting March 6th will be heard weekly on KSHP 1400 AM and 107.1 FM Las Vegas. That's right, my friends. Be sure starting March 6th to tune in at 8 p.m. every Fridays, West Coast time, to the Arrington Gavin Show. Y'all, I told you, we are growing. We are growing. Honored to be a part of that station. And before you head, to see a great concert or head to get lucky at the casino, look, while you're driving, tune into the Arrington Gavin Show. I truly appreciate it. Alrighty then. Now that I've said all that, I've always said, I have so much stuff to go over in the intro. One of these days, I'm gonna pull off like a Jim Carrey. One of my favorite movies of Jim Carrey is Ace Ventura and Pet Detective 1, 2. I'm just a fan, right? And so there's a scene when he's always give us your information. That's how I feel every time I do this show. I have such a long ass introduction, y'all. It's so long, and I'm like, one of these, I'm gonna write it down. I just usually go off memory, but one of these days I'm just gonna go really fast. And if you haven't caught, I'm just like, hey, look, check it out. You have to watch the, you have to continue to watch until you just, hear what we have to say. Anyways, my friends, as I mentioned earlier, we are honored to have a amazing guest. I just by talking with her before the show, I'm like, oh, I'm already, I'm looking forward to this conversation. And so, yes, you're in for a treat. I'm honored to have on Memphis City Councilwoman Jerri Green on. But before we bring her on, look, we're gonna pay some bills. Do not go anywhere, my friends. You're listening to the Arrington Gavin Show. Do not change that dial. We'll be right back.
Every man has a story to tell. Your ambitions, your achievements, your legacy. Your suit should reflect that story, crafted precisely, designed for impact, and tailored exclusively for you. We work with only the finest fabrics, luxurious wools, silk, linen, and blends from world-renowned mills in Italy, the UK, and India. These fabrics are the foundation of custom suits that exude elegance and stand the test of time. But a suit isn't just about fabric, it's about fit, and it's about confidence, and it all starts with you. When you work with me, you'll receive a personalized consultation, whether in person or over Zoom. Together, we'll explore your vision and discuss your needs, and we're gonna bring your ideas to life. My journey as a designer includes apprenticing under New York-based designer Clavon Leonard, showcasing collections at New York Fashion Week, Algeria Fashion Week, and the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. That experience is what we bring to every suit we create, from weddings to corporate events and everything in between. We specialize in crafting one-of-a-kind suits for life's most significant moments. Dapper Luke has been recognized as one of Baltimore's best menswear in 2023, and I was honored to be one of the 10 designers selected for the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. With over 900 satisfied clients, we proudly serve Virginia Beach and Baltimore, bringing world-class designs to these incredible communities. We don't just make suits, we craft confidence. Your suit will fit your body, your style, and it will tell your story. Book your free online personal consultation today. Visit www.dapperluke.com.
6'10", number one pick, 16 seasons, College Player of the Year, All-Rookie Standout. Joe Smith built a career on grit, consistency, and showing up.
Greatness isn't just about the game. It's about how you show up every day. Rugged Evolution now offers body care products for every man, because not every man wears a beard, but every man deserves care. Greatness doesn't fade.
It evolves. Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Every beard deserves to be legendary, and every man deserves care.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to.
And we still in traffic.
I don't look familiar, do I? Not in this seat.
Hey, what's that you listening to?
Here to host today.
Hey, turn it up.
With me?
Yeah, this that new Goat Verse app. I got you.
So y'all want to know where the goats are? They're off on the sidelines.
Looking for fresh, relevant content wherever you go?
What was the name of that he said?
Introducing GoatVerse TV.
GoatVerse, that's what it's called.
The free streaming app that brings you the best podcasts, current events, and thought-provoking opinions all in one place. Download it now from the Apple Store or Play Store. In Goats, we trust.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. Without further ado, I'm gonna go head on and bring on our special guest. She's waiting so patiently. I thank you so much backstage there. We're gonna bring on Memphis City Councilwoman Jerri Green. Councilwoman, how are you? Thank you so much for taking the time and coming here on the show.
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. No, and again, I know you've been extremely busy. Campaign season is not light work at all. I want to ask, have you been resting at least? You have been getting good sleep? No, yes, maybe.
Sleep is for after November. And I was telling someone I was recently, so campaigning is something I do. I
Mm-hmm.
am on the city council. That is a part-time job,
Mm-hmm.
allegedly. And my full-time job, I was just appointed as the chief public defender in Shelby County, one of the largest and oldest public defender, the best criminal defense attorneys in the country.
Wow.
And I was interviewed by a local paper and they said, "How are you doing all this?" I also have 3 kids, FYI.
Another
And I
job.
said,
Another job.
"Well, another full-time job and
Another
the most
full time.
important job that I have." And I said, "Well, the saying is, if you want something done, give it to a busy woman." So I stay
Mm.
busy, but I love everything I do. And I'm so privileged to do it. And you know what? There are a lot of other moms like me out there that are less fortunate than me, that are juggling
Mhm.
multiple jobs, that have much more stressful lives than I do. So I
Mhm.
don't complain 1 minute about all of this work. And we had a few snow days, so I got a little rest in there. But I try to take care of myself because that is important. Everybody should be doing that. Try to have
Mhm.
some work life balance. But the real secret is this, and every working mom will tell you this, is you juggle a lot of balls. You just have to know which ones are rubber and will bounce and which ones are glass and will break. And as long as you don't drop those glass ones, you're going to be all right.
Okay, okay, that's a cool. That's a bar right there. I'm gonna have to write that down there. That's interesting. Okay. Uh, now I normally ask this question to folks who are just now running, like this their first time running for elected position. Well, whether that's local, state, but you have already you've hit the pedestal. You serve on your local city council, but I still would like to ask if you don't mind giving a little bit of background to our audience, because you're new to the show. What led you to public office, or was this something that was a dream of yours at a young age, or did this occur very, very later on in life? Like, when did this all? Because I always ask, like, it's
Oh,
not a
goodness.
field that a lot of folks want to want to pursue. So I'm just curious,
Right.
where did this all
And
led you?
rightfully so. Rightfully so in this day, in this environment. This past year, having stepped up to run for governor, I have multiple credible death threats that have resulted in me getting a
Mm,
5-person security detail from my local police, having to wear a bulletproof vest on the campaign trail for a while, and having to make sure my sidearm was ready all the time. I am a gun
hmm
owner. So, yes, it's not a field that a lot of people get into. And I'll be honest with you. Again, you talked a little bit about when we were backstage about having your first woman governor. They say you have to ask a man once and you have to ask a woman 7 times. I
mm.
think the first time I ran for office, and then again this time to run for governor, they probably asked me 700 times because I was like, my life is full. I just told you all the jobs I have. I'm busy. I love what I do. Why would I do this? And the truth is this, the why for me goes back to those kids. So when people say, are you beholden to special interest? I say, yeah, I am. Their names are Bo, Vivian, and Wilder. They are 8, 14, and almost 16. I'm so close to having a third driver in my house. You'll have no idea how exciting that is. But they're the reason that I care about the environment being good and having clean air and clean water for the future. They are the reason that I fight so hard against gun violence because they've been doing active shooter lockdowns, not just
Mhm.
drills, since they were babies, right?
Mm, mm,
They are the reason that I want to make sure that Tennessee is a place where they want to have a good job, a house someday, live out the American dream, be able to go to college and then have a living wage. All of that goes back to them. And especially, as you mentioned earlier, in this day and age with who we have in the Oval Office,
mhm,
when they say, how can we believe in our leaders? How can we look up to them and respect people who are flipping off union workers, right? And that's a low bar,
yeah.
not just people who are in the Epstein files,
Mhm,
right? I'm talking about how can we look up to the people who are running our world when they are beholden to different kinds of special interest? And
mhm,
have you fought back when you see mothers being murdered in the street, when you see VA nurses being murdered in the streets by their own governors? What have you done to fight back? And I want them to look back on this time in our lives, because I know every year we're like, this is the most important election of your life. This is the most important election of your life. Um, I want them to say, my mom did everything. My mom did everything. So that's why I run. That's why I've done this. I do sit currently on the city council. I am the first Democrat to ever hold my seat in the 200 plus year history of our city. When I got elected, we got our first female majority also in the history of the city of Memphis.
Wow.
And I think that's important. And let me tell you this, I had to go to a runoff every night between the general and the runoff. I logged about 9 to 10 miles every night. I lost 2 toenails knocking doors, and I won by 56 votes. And the last door that I knocked on, this is an absolute true story. It sounds like such BS, but it is really true. The last door that I knocked on, the guy was standing in front of me the next day when I went to vote with my husband.
Wow.
Every door knocked out and every vote counts. And so, but that wasn't my first election. My first election was in 2020, which is if you have to run for office, and you should run for office, we want people to run for office, especially if you're, say, under the age of 75. We would like for you to run for office.
You can go a little lower. It's okay.
I mean, but let's set the bar.
Yeah.
The first time I ran for office, I ran against a 10-year incumbent who had never gotten 15,000 votes. So that was our win number. We got 15,127 votes. It was 2020. It was the pandemic. It was Trump versus Biden. It was George Floyd. So we saw record numbers, again, in a district that has traditionally been Republican. I was running as a Democrat. First time, I was an unknown. I got more votes than my Republican opponent, 10-year incumbent, had ever gotten, but it wasn't enough. So you know what they did? They redrew the district. They gerrymandered that district so much that it wasn't worth running. And I really didn't think I'd run again.
Wow.
The city council race came open and I tried it, and we won again by a miracle, 56 votes. Please go out and vote. Every vote matters. And now we're making this huge leap to governor because I believe deeply that people are ready for change.
You know what? That word really starts to circulate more and more often now than it was. Like, at first it was like, you're right. Every year is an election. Every year folks are saying how important the election is. But I think it's a clear understanding that elections have consequences if you don't take them serious. Okay. I mean, you're seeing now voters who had voted for this administration, people that voted for this administration, publicly regretting, having doubts. And it's like, well, coming from the elite voices in media to elected officials to, you mentioned the sadness that is going on in Minnesota right now. I mean, it was a story where a gentleman who was running for governor as a Republican dropped out the race because he was so sickened of the acts happening from ICE in his state. And so it is a lot of changing. You're seeing a lot of party switching, right? You're seeing a lot of longtime Republicans leaving the parties.
Look, at this point, it's not about right or left. It's about right or wrong.
Yeah.
And if you have a candidate like me, I am a progressive, but I'm also a pragmatic. I'm a mom. I want to get stuff done. I'll be PC here because you're on radio
I appreciate
stations.
it. It's hard, but I appreciate it.
The truth of the matter is, I'm not really trying to move Tennessee left or right. I'm trying to move it forward. And I think people, like you said, are disgusted at what they're seeing around the nation. And that's why, whether it's Virginia, where you are, or New Jersey, or Mississippi, or Georgia, all these ruby red places, Texas just had an earthquake. They moved a seat 31 points.
Yep.
And I'm telling you that it's because people are saying, I have values, I have morals, and what we're seeing from the top down is not okay, and we want something different.
You know what, Councilwoman, it's interesting because I've had a conversation with a good friend of mine who, friend of the show. Shout out to my friend Amanda of Amanda's Mild Takes. Be sure to follow her on social media. She's awesome. We were talking about again, the whole misconception, oh, is this a red state? Is this a blue state, purple state, vice versa? And I'm that person where I'm like, Georgia, red, Tennessee, red, purple. I've never been a believer of purple states personally. I understand when they bring them up. I'm like, and so she brought up a good argument by saying, hey, look at Georgia. You have two senators that are what? And it's like, okay, you would think in the highest position, how do they? And so I'm like, okay, you catch my. And then you brought up Texas, which is a very good example, which is a prime example of showing the change, the shift. Folks are tired, and that could possibly go on in your state, the volunteer state, because Tennessee is, and when I consider Tennessee as a red state, I'm just discussing the majority, right? When you look on in the General Assembly, majority red.
We have a super majority. We have actually a trifecta. So
Yes.
So the Senate, the House, and the governors right now are controlled by the Republicans. We're also have been named the most miserable state in the country. We lead the nation in poor education, in HIV rates, in gun deaths for children, you name it, maternal and fetal mortality rates. So, like, if you like that, great. But here's what I know about Tennessee. If you actually look at Tennessee, it sits in a really interesting place. If you go back all the way to the Civil War, right? It has been very middle of the road. It has been very close to, it will go blue and then red, blue and then red, blue and then red. It was the last to leave the Union and the first to rejoin, right? It's that kind of state. It's actually pretty independent. What has happened in Tennessee, when you look at the House and the Senate, is it has been terribly gerrymandered. So the politicians are picking their voters instead of the voters picking their politicians.
A huge disservice, by the way. That's a huge. I mean, I'm not a fan of the whole gerrymander thing. I understand when I see Democrats now using that as, because it's like, hey, look, we got to
fight fire with fire.
There you go.
But the truth of the matter is, in a governor's race, you're not gerrymandered. It's the whole state. And really, the problem in Tennessee has been we are a low voting state. Why are we a low voting state? Again, there is a lot of repression of our vote. There is a lot of tactics that they use. Actually, just this past couple of days in Shelby County, the largest county, the most diverse county, the most Democratic county, the state of Tennessee for probably half a day took our voter rolls and 25% of it disappeared. People were longtime voters.
Wow.
Right. Concerning. And then they've put people in inactive status, which means if you don't vote in the next election, then they're going to erase you from the voting rolls and you have to re-register to vote. None of this happens by accident. The system is working the way they want it to work. So what I'm telling you is you need a check on that power. And I love your example in Georgia, because what Stacey Abrams was able to do was not win the governor's race, right? But she was able to get 2 Democratic senators elected, and that helped take over the majority in the Senate, and that put a check on the House. So you have to have a balance, right? That's what American government's about. It's the checks and the balances, right? We have no checks and balances here in Tennessee right now. And so I think that, again, the midterms in general, the party that's not in power is more likely to get more votes. I think there are independents. I think there's Republicans. We get messages every day from Republicans that say, I'm supporting you. Actually, I got endorsed by a former state rep Republican who was a Speaker of our House to endorse me. Every day we're seeing that people are saying, what's happening at the national level, which is happening at our state level, is not okay. And what I want to tell you, so you have people in New Orleans and Atlanta who are listening, right? Across the country on YouTube. I live in Memphis. That means if you've watched the news, you know that I have 1,450 National Guard troops here on my streets. Okay. You know when their hotels are booked through? November of 2026. I want everybody to take a breath and think about that. And so if you are a blue dot in a red state, New Orleans, Atlanta, St. Louis, Charlotte, Jackson, Mississippi. I could go on.
Mm-hmm.
Understand, we are the blueprint for how they take things over. And it's not by accident that it's happening here. Again, because we have a governor right now who's a doormat and will roll over for Donald Trump. We have a GOP legislature, supermajority, that is chomping at the bit to make Stephen Miller's Nazi plans part of our state laws. Know that we are laying the foundation for what happens across this country. So you might want to write off Tennessee as a super ruby red place.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you it's not. I have traveled this back and forth across the state 11 times already. I've already made 50 stops. Everywhere I go, I get crowds, 100 people, 200 people, 300 people on a Monday night, on a Sunday afternoon. It doesn't matter. And that is because people are sick and tired of what is happening here. And I mean that quite literally. They don't have living wages. They don't have health care they can afford. They don't have housing they can afford. They don't have groceries they can afford. They see it in their lives every day. Their childcare is more expensive than college, right?
Mm.
And then on top of that, they're watching an administration that tells us that they are all about Christian values, but they don't love their neighbor. Because if they did, they wouldn't cut off their SNAP benefits and make them starve, especially our seniors. They don't welcome the stranger, because if they did, they wouldn't have people who are armed guards with masks on tackling them in ice-filled streets and disappearing them into God knows where, right? I'm telling you, we have a chance here to make a difference and to make an earth-shattering difference for our country and change the trajectory of what is going to happen with our whole Constitution. I've spent my whole life. I am an attorney. Forgive me. I used to say I was a recovering attorney, but I just got appointed the chief public defender here, so I'm back to being an active attorney. Nobody likes an attorney till they need one. But if you believe in America and you're not upset about what's happening right now, you don't really love her. If you believe in our Constitution and you're not pissed off at what is being done, how they are trampling on our Constitution, you don't actually care about those rights. I have fought for them every day of my career. And I plan to fight for them in the governor's office. And we need more people who are willing to take the courage, to bring some common sense, to bring some compassion back into our government every single day.
I'm very glad you brought you with us the fact that you had a former House Speaker Republican endorse you. See, that's stuff that I love to see. I love seeing the unity, because that you win in numbers. You got to work together. You got to be a person, right? And it's unfortunate we're in a society now where it's like, nope, it's so much division. So, but it's again, you mentioned an administration that their faith-based or Christian values, whatever, whatnot, but you have an administration that it rather promotes awful documentaries that I'm like, I had never been excited not to see a movie before. Like, it's interesting, but it's very sad that they rather focus on that or focus on changing the names of well-known monuments instead of Kennedy Center. Let me put my name in front of them and call it, like, that's the stuff that they
that's
want to
not
focus
the change
on.
that people want. People don't want a rebranding of the Kennedy Center. They want a reimagining of their public schools, right? Ones where everybody succeeds. They don't want RFK to tell us that red dye is bad. They want somebody who is going to stand up and say, we need some common sense gun legislation where children are not dying in their second grade classroom. Like, that's the kind of thing that I hear across the state. That's the kind of change that I hear people are wanting. They want health care that is affordable, not a war in Venezuela. And, we can argue whether that was a war or not, but I'm telling you, if somebody came over to America and kidnapped our president, it would be war and we would go after them. So I don't think that we're really that divided. whether it is, and I find this on the road, whether it is right
I
or
was
left.
just about to ask, and I hate to, I don't cut you off because I want to ask you, I continue your what you were saying, because I wanted to ask, what are you hearing from the individuals? I'm always curious to, like, okay, what are the individuals? What are residents, voters, Democrats and Republicans and independents? What have they, what have been a similar thing that they've been bringing up to you so far
So
during your campaign?
I'll tell you two things. One
Mm-hmm.
is I do this crowd think on the road where I'll say, raise
Mm-hmm.
your hand if you have ever been worried about a transgender athlete stealing your kid's athletic medal. And nobody raises their hand. And I'll say, raise your hand if you're worried about the price of groceries. Raise your hand if you're worried about skyrocketing medical costs. Raise your hand if you're worried about whether we're going to have a democracy after November 2026. All hands go up. Sometimes two hands go up, right? That's what I hear across the road. We're not worried. Again, they want us to focus on transgenders or immigrants, the wrong 1%, right? Not the billionaires that are causing all the problems. But I don't go to a place and give a speech or after every stump, I always stay after and I talk to anybody that wants to talk to me. Much to my campaign manager's dismay. She's like, we gotta go. But I stay and I talk to people, and whether when I'm giving my speech or when I'm talking to people afterwards, I don't go somewhere where people don't cry in my arms.
Wow.
And that is people who are American citizens, but they are originally from England and they have an accent and they're afraid to go out and order coffee now. That is gay teens who have been kicked out of their house and can't afford first and last month's rent, but want to love who they love. That is OBGYNs who can't recruit new doctors because our laws are so archaic here in Tennessee, and they know that women and babies are going to die. You name it. I have had grandmothers cry in my arms because they're worried about their grandbabies going to school and being shot. That's not a theory. That's not something that happens somewhere else. It happened right here in Tennessee. We watched it in Covenant. Our governor had friends and family members who died in the Covenant mass shooting, and yet nothing changed. That man signed permitless carry in a Beretta factory. So I know that people are hurting. I know that people need a leader who is willing and wants to work for change and will actually listen to them. I mean, that's the other thing that I hear across the state all the time is, so the people that are on the other side that I'm running against, Marsha Blackburn, John Rose, they've been in Congress, Senate for decades. And they also haven't had a town hall in decades.
Well, a
They
lot
don't
of
even
people are
answer questions from press,
I was just about to say
like
they're running from, well, that's a whole nother, an attack on the First Amendment, as far as freedom of press. I mean, that's a whole nother episode we could almost do. But it is unfortunate that, and I hear this a lot being in Virginia, right? When we're a Commonwealth state, I hear a lot of voters just irritated the fact that we have elected officials that will come out during campaign season, say this, say that, give us a headline, but no, the promises that quote unquote they say we're going to do are never met. And like you said, you have career politicians on the opposing side there who has served for years and decades and decades. Because transparency is a word that comes to mind during this whole process. Folks are asking and they want transparency. That's a reason why you see low voting turnout, because they're like, why bother if nothing is happening? Why bother? And one of my goals here on this show I've always tried is continue to inform our young people, because young people is the ones that's whatever. How can they relate to somebody that's 88 years old and wants to run for re-election, doesn't want to leave? I'm trying to be here, but it's so many key issues that I could literally grab and share with you, Councilwoman. But I want to talk more on on the issues happening in the state of Tennessee. But a question I want to start off by asking me, because you serve on a local level. Now, you've jumped over state to to that governor's. Well, it is a state, but still it's a very high, it's a wide leap that you're doing. So what is one of the your single biggest misconceptions that voters have about your readiness to govern all of Tennessee, not just in urban centers?
Well, our current president never served in any government capacity before he became president. I'm not sure anybody asked that of him. In fact, my current governor never served in any elected capacity or any government office before anybody asked that of him. I am a Georgetown law graduate, and that's important because my supermajority GOP legislature continues to pass more lawsuits than laws. I am also somebody who has served in many capacities in our local government, and I think that's super important. So I was deputy chief of staff to our county mayor before I became chief public defender, which means that I have been his right arm in leading policy changes, in responding to people. I also am a sitting city councilwoman. So I I kind of, again, public defender in me, I worship at the church of Brian Stevenson. If you don't know who that is, go look up Just Mercy. And he believes that to solve a problem, you got to get proximate to a problem. You got to go listen to people and hear their concerns, their questions, their issues, and then you can solve it. So that's what I've done on our local body for many years. So I have both the government experience, I have the people experience, I have the legal experience. And I do things like when we had problems with our transportation system here, again, to be proximate to the problem, I got on a bus out here in East Memphis, at the very end of Memphis, where I live, and rode it all the way to City Hall where I work. It took me an hour and a half, and I invited everybody who wanted to come ride the bus with me and point out the problems along the way, have a conversation with me on the bus. That's how you solve a problem. Can you imagine somebody like Marsha Blackburn doing that? Absolutely not. She doesn't really want to solve problems. She just wants to be in charge of things and tell you how you should do them. I don't think that's how you lead. That's not what leaders do. So I have done that throughout my career. Again, I've been somebody, I started my career as a juvenile public defender. What that means is imagine the most voiceless members of your community. They were minority, they lived in poverty, they often had mental health issues, and they were children. Who would listen to them? Who would fight for them? Who would stand up for them against the power of the state of Tennessee? That was my job when I got out of law school. And that's still my job today, to fight for this Constitution. And when you do that, when I fight for those individual clients, I fight for all of us. And if you care about the Constitution, if you care about your First Amendment right to free press, if you care about your Second Amendment right, like we saw in Minneapolis, to carry a firearm, if you care about your Fourth Amendment right to not have somebody invade your house without a search warrant, that's what I do day in and day out. So I think that I am more than prepared. I think that I bring a background of experience in government. I bring a background and experience in law. But I'll go back to my why again. And the thing that I bring that is unique among probably anyone who's ever been governor here in the state of Tennessee, again, because we've never had a woman. That's like right now, I have school age children, right? And so when we talk about how to make our schools the best, when we talk about how to invest in the future of Tennessee, how to build a place that our kids, maybe they go away to college and they come back. What does that look like? Being a mom means I've cleaned up a lot of messes that I didn't make, but I'm here for the tough work. And that means a common sense approach. That means having some compassion. And it also means fighting when necessary. I have the courage to stand up to people like Donald Trump. Bill Lee, our current governor, has
Oh,
been a
you said the
doormat.
name. No, I'm messing with you.
I know.
We were doing so
but
good.
but Bill Lee, our current governor, has been an absolute doormat. Marsha Blackburn will throw him a parade. So if you don't like those kinds of politics, And if you, again, I'm talking to people across the country.
Mhm.
You think, oh, well, whatever, Tennessee. Understand, we are writing a blueprint for the rest of the country. So I need y'all all to wake up and care, not just in Memphis, not just in Nashville, not just in Knoxville, not just in the South. I
Mhm.
need this whole country to wake up to the fact that if you don't want Donald Trump's plans to be tested out and figured out and then implemented better somewhere else, then you need to start investing in Tennessee because we're on the front
Mm.
lines of this fight.
Councilwoman, I want to talk more about you. We hit the head or mentioned about affordability, as you know, that's one of the key issues. I mean, it's always going to come down to money. I mean, I don't care what state, city you're in, affordability is everywhere. Now, Tennessee is a no state income tax, which a lot of residents support. But again, you mentioned affordability still remains a major concern. Now, how would you address rising costs, child care expenses, as you mentioned earlier, and wages without new tax burdens?
Okay, so this is actually pretty easy. And if you
Mhm.
go to my platform, we have laid out a lot of things that can happen day one. But let me give you an example. We can't change the state income tax. It's in our constitution now, thanks to
Okay.
the, again, super majority Republicans. So it's there. I'm not
Mhm.
worried about that.
Mhm.
But this past budget season, Governor Bill Lee gave $1.5 billion tax breaks to corporations and to franchisees owners. Billionaires, millionaires. Okay. The average Tennessean pays about 10% of their income in taxes.
Mhm.
Billionaires and millionaires pay about 2.8. Okay. I think that's backwards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm trying to.
if we even undid half of
Mhm.
what he did, we could end the grocery tax. Because the grocery tax brings in about $750 million a year. That means I could
Mhm.
pay for that 2 times over with what he gave to corporations.
Mm.
We also sit on $700 million in TANF funds. That's Tennessee Assistance for Needy Families. We sit on a $2 billion, growing every day, getting closer to $3 billion rainy day fund. Those TANF dollars can be used for things like childcare subsidies to those that are in need. We can also work with organizations that are in other states. Again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. This already happens. This is not some dreamland. But there
Mhm.
are organizations that buy medical debt for pennies on the dollar. So we could take 10 million of that 700 million that I have in TANF funds right now on day one through executive order. I don't have to get any approval, and put it towards paying off medical debt. That would help over 100,000 Tennesseans be free of medical debt. That would be life changing.
Mm.
We can do those things day one, whether it is childcare, whether it is medical care, whether it is groceries and affordability. We can also take those TANF funds and use them to create programs to help for first and last month rent, right? If we have 725 for our living wage, by the way, has not been raised since we had Phil Bredesen that you mentioned at the top. The last time we had a Democratic governor is the last time we raised the minimum wage here in Tennessee. I would raise it. But until we get that passed, we can take those TANF funds and set up funds for people who are in need to be able to pay their first and last month's rent. Because let me tell you a little quirk in the law. My mom was a single mom. When she tried to go back to college, she didn't graduate actually until I was in high school, but she tried when I was about 2 years old. The reason she couldn't finish is she could not afford tuition and books, right? Well, you can't afford tuition and books and rent and a car payment. But you can help people on their rent and their car payment through TANF funds. What you can't do right now through Section 8 housing, if you're in college, you can't apply. Now, does that make any sense?
It
Women
does at all.
who are trying to make or men that are trying to improve their lives can't get assistance in paying for housing while they put themselves through college, while they support their children? No, that doesn't make any sense. And we can step in and assist. We can step in and assist when, say, SNAP benefits get frozen on the federal level because those people up there can't get their acts together and do what's right by people. We can absolutely step in and say, we're going to fund that. We're going to help you. And you know why I know that? Because every Democratic governor in every state did it. We did not. In fact, Bill Lee, our current governor, said, I'm not going to accept free federal money to give kids money on their EBT cards, their SNAP cards, their food stamps, right?
Mhm.
For the summer. I'm not going to do it. What are you talking about? You're going to let kids go hungry in the summer? I don't understand that kind. You can't tell me you're a good Christian and do that. But I know as a governor, you don't have
You're
to be a
hypocritical.
mother to govern well. But what I know is if you govern like a mother, and a mother will say, "We got to feed them babies." I don't care if school's in or not, right? That is how you help all Tennesseans, and you definitely work on the affordability. I understand it in a different way than a lot of people. I was talking to my mom recently. I grew up here in a part of Memphis called Hickory Hill. Um, we were very poor. And she's like, "Well, we were never on food stamps." And I said, "Mom, we could have been on food stamps." I said, "How much did you make when we first, our first house over here in this neighborhood? How much did you make?" She said, $11,000 a year.
Mm, mm,
We often, after we paid rent and utilities and et cetera, and taxes taken out, we had $13 a week for groceries. I ate a lot of cabbage and spam and tuna helper growing up. I understand what people are going through right now.
mm.
I understand the decision between, am I going to pay for my medicine or am I going to pay my light bill? Because I've been a kid who, when it got cold outside, we cooked something in the oven and then we left it open and we warmed up next to it, right? The people I'm fighting against on the other side don't understand that. They don't understand what regular Tennesseans are going through. And so I'm going to govern from a place that says we have to do better, especially when it comes to affordability. Because what does it say in our Declaration of Independence? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? We have to do everything we can to instill those American values in what we have right here in Tennessee.
Love it. I want to one more question in regards to the economy in the state of Tennessee. Now, rural Tennessee, and really this goes on across all, the whole United States. Rural areas always feel left behind, right? And
Mhm.
what specific policies would you implement to ensure rural communities benefit? And I ask that because, like, for example, here in Virginia, we have a lot of major corporations coming in. Then, like, rural areas, local businesses, they'll feel some type of way. What's the benefit for me? What about me? So I asked, what specific policies would you implement to ensure rural communities benefit, not just, major cities in the state of Tennessee?
So I think the major thing that we can do for rural communities, and again, I've traveled to tiny little places across this state, is we can start accepting the Medicaid expansion money. So
Mm,
you in Virginia don't do what we do in Tennessee, which is we've rejected the taxpayer dollars that I pay, that my neighbors pay, that
mm,
go off to the federal government. We don't take them back, even though they're our dollars. And
mm,
that has resulted in numerous rural hospital closings. In fact, we lead the country in rural hospital closings. And that's really tragic for women. We've had two, even with rural hospitals being open, two maternity wards in Tennessee closed this year at the hospitals that are still open in rural areas.
wow,
You can't
wow.
build a state if you can't build a family. And you can't build a family if you don't have a place to give birth. And it's not just the hospital. When you have a hospital, this is sort of my economics across the state, but especially for rural areas in a snapshot, right?
Mm,
Let's say that I give you a supplement for SNAP when
mm,
the federal government closes down, right?
mm,
Then you can go to the local farmer's market and support your local farmer. Your local farmer can then go get his tractor repaired with the local guy down the street. He can then go to his favorite Italian restaurant that's local. Then that restaurant owner can buy a used car for his 16-year-old, right? So the same thing happens when we invest in hospitals. It's not just doctor jobs and nurses jobs, it's the administrators, it's the coffee shop down the street where everybody goes to at the end of the shift. It's the person who sells scrubs on the corner. It helps the whole economy and it
mm,
also helps the health of the economy. Nobody wants to live here if they can't have a kid here. No businesses want to come here if they can't say the local hospital is real safe, it's right down the road. You can't have people, you can't have businesses, you can't have rural America thriving. And what I hear from rural American moms is twofold. One is my kids leave because there's no opportunity. When you open a hospital, you got opportunities. Like I said, whether it's administrative or medical, right?
Mm-hmm.
You open a hospital, you also have something else, and that is mental health and substance abuse care. Because a lot of rural areas, particularly here in Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
are suffering from the opioid epidemic. And we have about 700,000 people die every year because of it, right? That's awful. I'm not in the pocket of big pharma. I'm not in the pocket of big hospitals or big insurance companies. I just know that our communities need resources, whether it is counseling for substance abuse or for mental health or pain management. We need hospitals in our communities for so many reasons. And that would be the number one thing I would do to revive our rural communities. The other thing that's really important that we do in here in Tennessee, and I'm actually not sure about Virginia, but we are, for some asinine reason, doubling down on vouchers. Vouchers have proven everywhere they've been to defund our public schools, defund our teachers, defund our students, harm them. The people who take vouchers are wealthy and can already afford the schools they're in, so it's welfare for the wealthy. And
Welfare for the
in the
wealthy.
rural areas, when I travel around the rural areas, I'll be like, "What's the high school?" And they'll be like, "We're the Pirates." I'll be like, "All right, what are the colors?" And they'll be like, "We're purple and gold." I'll go to the next town. I'll be like, "What's the mascot?" And they'll be like, "We're the Warriors." And I'll be like, "What are the colors?" Like, black and red. You know why? Because there's one high school. There's nowhere that a voucher can go. And so when they take that $7,000+ per student, which they're now going to
Mm.
double, they only take it away from that school. They only take it away from those kids' futures. And people know it, whether they are an R or D, and it is not popular. So, ending the vouchers and increasing our funding to hospitals are the two priorities for me in rural Tennessee.
Oh, I'm looking at my time. Look, y'all, I told you we were gonna have a great conversation because I feel like time always is against me. Let me see if I can stretch out. Two more quick questions, Councilwoman. Again, I appreciate you again for being here. And if you don't mind, I would love to chop it up with you just for a couple seconds after this show, if that's okay. Okay, I'll ask. I have two more quick questions. Looking at my time. Okay. Now we've talking a lot about the issues happening on the opposing side, but there is some accountability that occurs on the Democratic side as well. What is one area you believe Democratic leadership nationally has fallen short, and how would you do things differently in Tennessee? Now I know I mentioned nationally, but you have voters that they watch the news that's going on in different states, and they always kind of bring it back to, oh, okay, they're doing the same thing here. So what would you I don't know. How would you do things differently in Tennessee?
So, if you follow me on social media, other people might not yet, but if you know, my slogan is one tough mother. And I think the one thing that Democrats fell on locally, statewide, nationally is having the guts to actually put up a fight. I don't know of a different time in history where we need to fight with everything we have at every moment we can. We need to say things out loud like ICE should be defunded and abolished. We've that system is not working, and it is literally killing American citizens in broad daylight in the streets. It's got to be done. We need people who are willing to stand up and say abortion is health care. I have had 3 kids. I've also had a miscarriage. I hate to break it to everybody out there. That means I've had an abortion. When you have a miscarriage and you get a DNC, it's the exact same thing. 1 in 4 women have had it, and we should have the right to have it in whatever state we live in. My daughter now has less rights than her grandmother did. That's wrong. I live in a country now where there are people who are in very high positions in our government that are talking about whether women should have the right to vote. Look, I live in Tennessee. If you don't know the history, the suffragettes, the movement to actually get women the right to vote passed through our amendments it only came through because of Tennessee. There was a state representative that was the last one to vote on whether that should go to the convention. And the reason he did it was because his mama wrote him and said, you better vote, and you better vote the right way. Tennessee has a long history of strong women that are willing to fight for what's right. Look, I come from the land of Dolly Parton, right? And that means I'm pretty laid back, but I can sit up real quick. And so I want people to know that Democrats are ready to fight and ready to fight for the people of our country and not cave and not make excuses. That's what I would change if I could change one thing.
Final question, Councilwoman. Why should in the election, why should folks vote for Jerri Green as their governor of Tennessee?
I hope people vote for us because they believe in a better Tennessee, one where kids are getting the education they need, where people can afford daily life, where people don't have to pick between whether they're going to pay for their utilities or pay for their health care. I hope that they vote for me because they are sick and tired of the cruelty, of the chaos, of the kowtowing to Donald Trump. Hate to say his name twice, but I hope that people really have decided in their heart of hearts what they're seeing is wrong. And they want to have somebody who will stand up and fight for them. So, what I can tell you is this. I will answer to the public. Again, I'm traveling across the state, and I say every stop, I say, what I'm going to do now is do something none of my opponents will do, which is take questions. But the real questions I have to answer every day at my kitchen counter from my kids, which is, are you doing everything you can? And I hope they vote for me because they know that I am doing everything I can, and I will continue to do everything I can because I care about those special interests, Bo, Vivian, and Wilder.
Absolutely. For those who are watching us right now, I've put your platform, but for those listening, how can folks learn more about your campaign, your platform, especially those out in Tennessee? How can they get to know you more or want to support?
Good grief. Is there a place I'm not? So my website is green, like the color, for the preposition, not the number, governor.com, greenforgovernor.com. You can find me there. And again, there's a lot about me, my platform, our events. Please come see me in person. We're hitting the road this weekend. We got a couple of stops this weekend. The weekend after that, I don't know. I think I have like 10 stops in one weekend.
But who's
It's
counting?
insanity.
Who's counting?
Somebody bring me coffee. So come see me in person. That's a great place. But we have written op-eds. We have done podcasts and YouTubes like this. I am on all the socials, much to my dismay. I just turned 48 a couple of weeks ago, and I am sadly on TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads. We just started a YouTube channel. We're uploading stuff there, including a couple of mass volunteer calls to action that we have, some great information on that. And we started a Substack. I don't know, if you can't find me, man, come knock on my door, come to a city council meeting. I'll be there.
I know that's right. She said, hey, look, I am everywhere. There's nothing wrong with that, Councilwoman. Again, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. I would love to chop it up with you just for a couple minutes. But again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come here for us. Absolutely. And don't be a stranger.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't be a stranger. Best of luck to you on your campaign. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, my friends. Look, I hope you enjoyed another great conversation. As always, stay safe out there. Stay blessed. Yeah, I will talk to you soon for another great convo here on the Arrington Gavin Show. I'm out.
That's it for tonight on the Arrington Gavin Show. Thanks for tapping in and keeping the conversation alive. Don't forget, stay connected with us on all platforms. Follow at Arrington Gavin on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X, and subscribe to the official Substack for exclusive takes and deep dives you won't get anywhere else. We're here every weeknight, same time, same energy, same real talk. Until next time, stay bold, stay sharp, and stay true. That's what we do on the Arrington Gavin Show. Peace.